And the first time I met Bruce was when he just came up and said, "Do you want a hand with that?" and started helping me carry an Ampeg cab. And I was thinking, I didn't think rock star lead singers carried bass cabs, you know.
Viikonloppusoturit. Iron Maiden podcast.
Tervetuloa kuuntelemaan Viikonloppusoturit-podcastin ensimmäistä Extra-jaksoa. Tilannehan on siis se, että olemme heikentäneet palvelun laatua vähentämällä julkaisutahtia puolella, mutta nimeämällä nämä ylimääräiset pikkulähetyksemme Extra-nimellä, niin koitamme luoda sellaista mielikuvaa, että saatte itse asiassa jotakin enemmän kuin aikaisemmin, vaikka todellisuudessa tilanne on täysin päinvastainen. Tätä kutsutaan markkinoinniksi. Näitä pieniä extra-pläjäyksiä tulee sitten tässä lainausmerkeissä väliperjantaisin aina säännöllisesti, kun keksitään jotain sopivia, lyhkäisempiä aiheita näiden varsinaisten albumianalyysien ja muiden isompien aiheiden väliin. 3 ensimmäistä Extra-jaksoa on äänitetty heinäkuussa 2022 tuolla Vantaan Korsossa Beast Feast -fanitapahtumassa, jossa paikalla oli Bruce Dickinsonin bändissä bassoa soittanut Chris Dale, sitten Iron Maidenin ensimmäisen levyn toinen kitaristi Dennis Stratton ja sitten vielä Loopy Newhouse, niin nämä 3 haastista julkaistaan sitten näissä rakosissa varsinaisten X-Factor-analyysien väleissä. Tämä on ehkä ihan hyvä tapa käyttää näitä sisältöjä ja mielenkiintoisia haastiksia silleen, että ja sitten teidän harteille kuulijan päätettäväksi, että jaksatteko kuunnella näitä haastatteluita vaiko ette. Ensimmäisessä ekstrassa siis vieraana basisti Chris Dale, joka soitti Bruce Dickinsonin Skunkworks-orkesterissa ja samannimisellä levyllä. Liittyy bändiin hieman aikaisemmin. Kylläkin antaa herran sitten haastattelussa itsensä kertoa, miten homma oikein meni. Mielenkiintoista muistelua 90-luvun puolivälin Bruce Dickinsonin henkisestä tilasta ja bändin seikkailuista muun muassa Sarajevossa Bosnian sodan aikaan. Pidemmittä puheitta siirrytään aika-avaruusjatkumon läpi tuonne Vantaan hikiseen heinäkuiseen iltapäivään ja päästetään ääneen Chris Dale.
Viikonloppusoturit.
So we have here Mr. Chris Dale, who was playing with Bruce Dickinson back in the 90s, long time ago. But
It's a long time.
How are you, Chris?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Loving being in Finland.
What have you been up to lately?
Lately, I've been trying to relearn these songs to try and play them tonight because they said, "Oh, come and do a couple of old Bruce songs on stage," and I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." And then I went home and listened to the records and thought, "You're right, it was a long time ago. I don't remember how these songs go at all." That's what I've been doing.
What was it like to revisit those old songs?
Yeah, it was interesting, and of course, as you start playing them, you know, there's a bit of like muscle memory comes back, and you go, "Oh yeah, I remember how this goes." But also, then I started remembering some of the gigs and the silly times that we had on tour just by playing these songs. Going, "Oh God, I remember doing this." Yeah.
So there are some memories still.
Oh, there's a lot of memories, which is, you know, how I was able to do the book, thankfully, you know.
Could you bring us back to around 1994, 1995? The Skunkworks lineup first became together for the Balls to Picasso tour.
Yeah.
How did you end up together with Bruce?
So what happened was Bruce was recording his solo album, Balls to Picasso, in America, but the band that he recorded that with, Roy Z and the Tribe of Gypsies, they didn't want to go on tour. They had their own record to do. So Bruce had a finished album, but no band. And he came back to London and he thought he wanted a band based in London because he's based in London and it makes sense if we're all near each other. So and he already knew Alex Dixon, guitarist. Actually, Gunn had opened for Maiden a couple of years before, and Alex lives near Bruce and they all knew each other anyway. It's a small a small little circle as friends. And so Alex was already in there. And then I literally saw in Kerrang, there was an interview with Bruce, and he said in the interview, I'm looking for a rhythm section, I've got a guitarist. And he said, you know, he wanted quite a funky rhythm section because it was a different sound he was going for and that. But he said, yeah, I want a bass player and a drummer. And so obviously I read this in Kerrang. It's quite open for everyone in the world to read.
Yeah.
So, okay. And I knew a couple of the guys in the band Skin, and they were on Sanctuary Management as well. So I called them and asked, you know, for basic contact details. Did the old-fashioned thing, typed up a CV on a typewriter, you know, before computers clack, clack, clack. Sent a photo in and a little cassette, of course, of me and the drummer playing. Because me and this drummer had already been working together in another band. So we already had a nice tight little package to send in. And then we got a call from Sanctuary and they said, come in for a meeting, come in for a chat. And so we did that, and it was straight into a board meeting with Rod Smallwood.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh shit. This is, and he was basically telling us the plan and what they wanted to do. And he said, like, the reaction to the Kerrang article had been hardly anything. He said we got a couple of odd bass players right in, a couple of odd drummers. He said nobody came as a unit, nobody had a professional package to hand in.
Yeah.
And also me and the drummer had been in bands before, we'd recorded albums and stuff, we weren't amateurs. And he said this is just the best thing that's come in. And we were like, okay, well that's good. So he goes, so you're to the top of the queue.
Sure.
We want to audition you guys, and if that doesn't work, we'll start looking elsewhere. So from that, it seemed like the opportunity was just offered to us. And then they gave us the Balls to Picasso album, which wasn't out yet. They just gave us a cassette. And they told us to learn 4 songs from it, and we had like a week or something. And me and the drummer, well, we got a little rehearsal place, so we just thought, let's just learn.
So Bruce wasn't present at this meeting?
No.
Yeah, sure. Please.
And then we just learned the whole album. We thought this is the way to do it. Let's do this properly, you know. And so then when we came into rehearsal, Bruce was like, right, so the first audition, right, where do you want to start? We've got these 4 songs. And we're like, well, we learned your whole album. And he just smiled and he was like, oh, great, brilliant. You know, he likes initiative, he likes people who make an effort.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we can play all of it. Where do you want to start? Great, yeah.
How would you describe Bruce back in those days? He was just left Maiden and did a couple of solo albums. What was he like as a bandmate when you started playing and rehearsing together?
That literally was it. I think you just answered your question. he was a bandmate.
Yeah.
And that was the odd thing, because of course that first audition, I turned up with my big Ampeg cabs and I'm trying to load this Ampeg into a rehearsal studio. And the first time I met Bruce was when he just came up and said, do you want a hand with that? And stopped helping me carry an Ampeg cab. And I was thinking, I didn't think rock star lead singers carried bass cabs, you know. I don't know how often he carried Steve's cabs. No, quite. But the fact that he was straight in there like that, and he was really relaxed in that first audition, which helped us because we were a bit nervous, of course. And he was straight away just normal guy. And then after that first jam, we went for a drink with him, and again, he just seemed really normal and down to earth. And we thought, this is going to be quite fun, I think, you know, because you never know with lead singers and reputations and stuff. But no, he was fine.
So would you say you had a slightly like a wrong idea of the guy before you met him? Like you were expecting a bit more like
him,
a rock star.
Not him particularly, but rock stars in general. You know, they have a reputation, don't they? You know, but he was not Axl Rose, shall we say?
Did you feel that he had like some kind of extra will to show everybody that he can make it as a solo artist and with a new band, or what was his attitude like? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, the one thing about Bruce is he is very ambitious. Yeah. He's very competitive. He's not lazy. He wants things to work. This wasn't a joke. You know, I think sometimes maybe he makes light of it in retrospect with interviews and says, oh, you know, Tattered Millionaire, I made for a bit of a laugh. This isn't quite how it goes with Bruce. You know, things aren't done for a laugh. They're done for a reason.
Sure.
And he does want them to be good. And, yeah, He genuinely wanted to be bigger than Maiden.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't going to happen. But you can see, looking back on it, that did happen with Ozzy and Sabbath. It got to the point where Ozzy was bigger than Sabbath, you know. And with Dave Lee Roth and Van Halen, there was that possibility, and, you know, Dio and Rainbow and stuff. And I think Bruce was looking at all this going, you know, that's what I want to do. And as it happened, it didn't work out that way, as we all know. But you've got to try at it. You know?
How did the whole Skunkworks album started to come together? Was it Bruce's intention, or all of you together, to make like this alternative rock, kind of grungy?
Well, this was the thing, like, alternative is the word.
Yeah.
Bruce wanted an alternative to Maiden.
Yeah.
He wanted it not to sound like Maiden, and that was the key thing we were told. We were told, you know, none of this harmony guitar stuff, no quiet bass intros, no, you know, that kind of. Do you know those trademarks of Iron Maiden?
Yeah.
It's like no galloping, none of that kind of stuff. But that's all we were told. He didn't say, I want it to sound like this band, or try and do this. And Alex Dixon, the guitarist, you know, he's an amazing songwriter, an amazing musician. And he just went away and wrote ideas. And he demoed them all on little cassettes. And then he was handing us these cassettes of like, right, here's 6 songs, here's another 6 songs, here's another 6 songs. And he was coming in with again and again and again, and Bruce had to stop him. Like, no, stop. I think we've got enough for an album here. You know, you've given me 17, you've given me 18. I don't need 20. But they kept coming in, and Alex was just trying different ideas, and it wasn't specifically to sound like anyone. It was just like, let's just try things. What do you want to do? And Bruce just seemed to love all of it and get really excited about it.
Yeah,
and
sure.
He is like that, you know, he gets excited and he focuses on things, and so he just started writing over it. But there was no intention to, you know, you mentioned grunge there, and I think that it was an unfortunate thing that people said that, because actually I don't think it sounds like Nirvana. I don't really get that. I think if anything, you know, you can hear a bit of prog in there, there's a little bit of Rush going on. There's punky bits, there's quiet bits and loud bits. We were just trying lots of different stuff, really. But of course, as we found out later, that Iron Maiden fans actually like the sound of Iron Maiden.
Oh, they do.
Which is something that really hadn't occurred to us, I don't think. So when we do something that deliberately doesn't sound like Iron Maiden, then Iron Maiden fans don't like it.
I think the album has got like sort of cult following, but slowly built the appreciation towards it. It's pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Fresh.
Thanks.
Fresh, I think.
fresh.
Great,
yeah,
yeah.
it's fresh still.
That's a great compliment after all these years.
Yeah, because I think we were talking about this album like a few months back, and, you know, finding ourselves not listening to it for some time.
Yeah.
And then we listened to it, and I think we were texting like, this is actually very good. And like this of course it's different.
Yeah.
But creating the same stuff all over again, it gets a bit boring to the player and to the composer yourself. Like it's natural that you develop different styles and try something new. And
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, I think to say that after 25 years that it still sounds fresh is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And it's great that people are getting into it now. And I know it's been re-released and it came out on vinyl again and all that. And obviously I've seen on Facebook people getting in touch saying, oh, I love this album. And that's beautiful 25 years later. But unfortunately, we needed the sales at the time when we were going on tour. And at the time, we were touring with Halloween.
Yeah.
And it was not the best tour to be on, because obviously you've got you know, Halloween fans, Maiden fans. Yeah, there's a big crossover. And they're all there and they're expecting to see Bruce. And we come out playing this song in 6/8, you know, and it's just, they're not getting it.
Viikonloppusoturit.
Bruce describes in his own biography that there was some kind of quote-unquote musical differences within Skunkworks, the almost cliché kind of thing that happens. I can see in your face that wasn't quite the truth, and
not my view of the truth. I mean,
from what I've understand, there probably were many different reasons. But what was your interpretation of the whole thing? Bruce decided to end the band after the album and your tour.
Yeah. So basically, we weren't selling enough records. It hadn't worked the way that he'd hoped it would in the management and the record company, and so something had to change. And he made the quite sensible decision of trying to regain some Iron Maiden fans by doing an album that sounded more like Maiden and doing it with Roy Z and Adrian Smith, obviously, getting Derek Riggs involved. This was to bring Maiden fans back to the fold, you know. So whether there was musical differences with us or not, I mean, from my point of view, not so much, because I'm playing what I'm told, you know. I'm a hired bass player. You tell me to play some country, I'll play some country if you want. Probably not very well, admittedly. I'll give it a go if that's what you want.
Were you disappointed that he didn't want to go through with the chosen path, so to say?
Yeah, sort of. But it all made complete sense. You know, to be honest, I would have done exactly the same if I was him. It wasn't going to sell any more records if we made a second album like that. Ticket sales were going down. Concerts were getting cancelled. This just wasn't a working business model, basically. So yeah, absolutely had to change. There was some differences between Alex Dixon and Bruce about where it should go next. But basically, like I said with the Skunkworks album, you know, we were told by Bruce to make an alternative album, so that's what we did. When we were first hired, like I say, in the Kerrang article, it said he wanted a funky rhythm section. So yeah, Balls to Picasso, we're out touring and I'm giving it the slap bass, that's what he wanted. Then it wants to be an alternative record, so sure, I'll do that. So we did that. Then, apparently he wanted it to be heavy metal. Well, I didn't know that, but if you want heavy metal, I can play heavy metal. Yeah, not a problem. So I think he was changing his mind and changing ideas as he went along, and I think that's something you see in the first 3 or so of Bruce's solo albums.
Yeah.
He's changing his mind. He's looking for a direction, you know, and experimenting, which is a great thing. And I think that's probably one of the reasons he left Maiden, is because he wanted to experiment, and Maiden isn't about experimentation, you know.
In December 1994, you visited Sarajevo during the Bosnian War, and there's a great documentary about that. Obviously, the Scream for Me Sarajevo.
Yeah.
If somebody hasn't seen that, I warm-heartedly recommend it to anybody who cares about documentaries. Doesn't have to care about rock music at all. But
no, true.
It's a very, very emotional and great documentary. But now war is raging again in Europe, in Ukraine. Has the Russian attack brought back any memories to you from that Sarajevo trip?
Yeah, I mean, obviously making the film brought back the memories. But this thing in Ukraine, as soon as it started, I could see where it was going and what was going to happen. And it's horrific. It's like Bosnia times 10, because it's a bigger country with a bigger population being attacked by a bigger army. And I just knew straight away that we're going to find bodies, we're going to find civilians killed, and sure enough, that's what they've been doing. That's what happens in these things. It would be lovely to think that some soldiers go into a field and fight by themselves, but that's not what happens. Civilians get murdered, and yeah, it's horrible watching it, because it's all too predictable, you know.
Do you feel like you have a more like personal connection to since you've seen it happen before?
Exactly. You know, you see it on the news and it's scary, but yeah, real life's a bit worse.
How do you see the whole experience now, almost 30 years later?
I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad we did it, because for one thing, it really helped the Bosnian people at the time, and it really it was a bit of an education for me, you know, growing up in nice, comfortable UK, and suddenly seeing actually what can happen to a country, how it can descend into chaos. Because I'd been to Yugoslavia previous to that, and seemed like a nice country, seemed fairly normal. I didn't understand at the time the undercurrents of the politics and the different ethnicities, but it seemed all fairly normal. And then you see how it can descend into absolute chaos and horror. And it makes you realise this could actually happen to any of us, you know? And then, of course, it happens in Ukraine, but, you know, there's the Soviet threat here in Finland. I wouldn't imagine Putin's going to be that stupid, but you really don't know, you know? And also, you know, the Brexit thing in Britain destabilised our politics. It wouldn't take too much for that to go horribly wrong, you know? If there's food shortages, that's when you start having riots on the streets. There could be all sorts of underlying tensions in the population. It really could happen anywhere.
You can't play heavy metal with synthesizers.
Is there anything you learned from those years playing with Bruce?
Oh, it was a massive learning curve, yeah. I mean, I'd toured Europe before. I'd never been to Finland before. Never been to America before. Never been to South America, Japan. So it was a massive, like, basically a big holiday around the world page, you know? But yeah, learning a lot all along the way. It was a great experience all around, you know, and everything like that. You're learning about playing better. You're learning about how bands tour, the mechanics behind the music industry, making albums. It was all a learning experience, you know. As a young guy, and it was a great experience, you know. I really loved the whole thing.
Do you have any, like, one particular memory while touring or something that comes to your mind?
Well, I mean, obviously the Sarajevo thing kind of stuck out. That was pretty shocking. No, it really was. Every day was a new experience, you know. I mean, it's difficult to compare, you know, was Tokyo more amazing than Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Wow. Los Angeles was pretty amazing, you know, for the first time being in this big rock and roll city, you know.
Oh yeah, you've seen only in television or
of course,
read in the magazines, yeah.
And then you're really there, and yeah, the whole thing, you know, holidays. It was paid holiday playing heavy metal, you know.
Oh man.
Well, I remember there was someone who wasn't really into Bruce Dickinson or Iron Maiden, and they said to me, "I don't know what you're doing that for." I was like, "Well, firstly, it's a job. I'm a musician and I'm getting paid. Secondly, it's a holiday round the world.
Yeah.
Thirdly, there's free beer backstage. Fourthly, there's you know, I could just go on."
So I watched some older interview with you, and you said that you don't have any kind of need anymore to play like another heavy metal album or whatever.
True, yeah.
Yeah. So what have you been up to lately regarding band projects? Is there anything we can expect in the future to hear from you?
Nothing too exciting, no. Well, actually, no. Next month, I've got some gigs in the UK with Eric Martin. I did work as Billy Sheehan's bass tech for a few years on tour, and worked with Mr. Big, obviously, and got hanging out with.
You charged the Makita, the machines,
yes,
right?
Yes. I did the Makita drill. Yeah, I had to put the plectrums on the end, make sure it was charged up every show. That's part of the job of being Billy Sheehan's bass tech. Yeah. It's not all changing strings. There's a lot of changing strings, but there's some Makita work as well. You're right. I mean, that was another great experience, and you know, a trip around the world and working with such an amazing bass player, and again learning from him every day, and the fact that I was able to, you know, be close up with him, watch the show every night, see exactly how things are going. I know exactly how his rig goes together because I had to set it up every day, and even I got chances to just like go backstage, and we've both got a bass on, and I'm like, come on, show me that lick that you do in that one song, and I get personal one-to-one lessons from Billy Sheehan, you know. But also got to be great friends with Eric on tour, and Pat and Paul. They're all absolutely lovely people and great to hang out with, and obviously amazing musicians to learn from and jam with and stuff. It was an incredible time. But kept in touch with Eric a lot, and so I'm doing some shows with him. They're acoustic shows in the UK. But yeah, it's quite funny how I get to play Mr. Big songs and Iron Maiden songs. And I kind of think, I don't know, someone upstairs is like giving me a challenge. Like, can't I play AC/DC songs and play something a bit simple? I've got to do Billy Sheehan and Steve Harris covers. These are not easy things to do.
So we have here your book.
Yeah.
It's quite a massive, beautiful package. Can you tell me a little bit how that became together?
Yeah, it happened just before lockdown. I started a Skunkworks Facebook group to kind of reconnect with old people and stuff like that. And also, me and Alex Dixon had been talking. We're both big Kiss fans, and you can find a lot of Kiss demos on YouTube. It's all kind of quite open. There's Kiss demos, unreleased songs, rehearsals, and all that. We sat around listening to these, and we thought, do you know, we've got all this from Skunkworks. We've got Skunkworks rehearsals, Skunkworks demos, and they just sat there on a shelf on cassette. And actually, we took loads of photos on tour, and again, they just sat there at home in an envelope. What's the point in all this? And we've got these funny memories. This should actually be going out there to the people, you know? So we started this Skunkworks group, and I put a couple of photos up. And of course, as soon as you put a couple of photos on Facebook, all the fans share it around the whole internet, and then it's just gone. And you're like, okay, this isn't working so well, is it? Maybe this needs to be a kind of more permanent format. But also, people in the Facebook group, they were coming in asking questions. Some of them were going into some real detail about, you know, obscure tracks and B-sides and why did this happen, and then coming in with their own memories of gigs, and guys saying like, oh, I remember my first concert was Bruce Dickinson in Helsinki or something, and I remember you guys came on stage and the lights were amazing and stuff like that. And I was like, you know, this is actually good, the way it's all coming in and it's being written, and we shouldn't lose it. And so I was copying and pasting off Facebook into a Word document, and there's these questions and answers and memories of gigs and loads of photos, and that's the way the book's turned out. So obviously you can't see it on the podcast, but it's all question and answer format. You know, there's a fan saying what happened here, and I was at the London show, and so then there's photos and passes and more people coming in, and there was the guy in the support band that was supported around the UK, and he came in with his memories of it. So it's not just my book, you know, and there's set lists and posters, and so it's not just my book. I tried to get everyone involved. Jack Endino, the producer, helped out, and Alex Elena, the drummer, helped out, and then some of the road crew, and like someone came in on the Facebook group and said, what were Halloween like to be on tour with? And I was like, well, okay, yeah, they were nice guys, and we hung out a little bit and had a few beers, but I thought, actually, the more interesting question isn't what we thought of Halloween, it's what did Halloween think of us? And I stay in touch with Roland Grapoff every now and then, I messaged off to him, mate, can you give us a quick rundown of what you thought of Skunkworks? And so you got his opinion in there, so it's like loads of people's opinions all coming in at the same time. And all these photos, which is why it kind of ended up as this massive book, because it's 375 odd pages. And I went through my diaries, and you see I've got everything day by day. It's every rehearsal, every recording day.
So it's a real package for any
show.
Skunkworks fan.
Yeah, and I just wanted, because I'm only going to do this book once, I'm not going to mess around and do a volume 2. Just have absolutely everything in there. And when I told Bruce I was doing the book, he said, oh yeah, sounds good fun, yeah. And I said, yeah, I went through my diaries and I got every day down, every rehearsal and everything. And he just looked at me in shock, and he was like, I don't have anything like that, you know? And I think, you know, you mentioned his book earlier, and they're very different books. You know? Bruce likes, he's a storyteller, as we hear in his
more like anecdotes.
Lyrics. Yeah, and he's trying to do his whole life in one short book, so it is anecdotes and popping in and out. And my approach was more, like I want everything day by day, and I don't want any inaccuracies in there. So I'm Googling and checking people's names and checking the venues and where we played and the maps and all that, because I want it to be factual. And it is amusing, and hopefully people find it funny, and there are some stupid stories in there, because we were very young and we were very childish, and we did some very stupid things. So all that's in there.
It's been a pleasure. We hope to see you tomorrow on stage, and what kind of songs are you playing? I can't even imagine. We'll see it tomorrow.
I think we will, yeah. It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and have a nice summer.
Viikonloppusoturit.